If you ever wish to play dots, the newest Hysilens banner in Honkai Star is your best bet in helping you do that. And today, welcome to my comprehensive Hysilens guide where I'll be bringing you through everything you need to know about Hysilens in an easy to understand way. Hopefully it'll aid you in getting her ready for your account. Feel free to use the timestamps below to get to where you want to be. And final note, all footages are recorded from the Creator Experience server. Before we get into it, a quick introduction to Loot Bar. It is a reliable website offering cheaper prices to purchase shards for tons of games, and I personally use it for Star Rail. Loot Bar offers cheaper prices for a variety of shard bundles and even for express passes. It shows how much you save on your site so you know what you're getting. Not to mention the reviews reflect how good the services are, no issues there. There are unique shard bundles that can guarantee a new character. Some guarantees the Lightcone, some gives you general resources, or you can stick to the standard shard bundles that we have in-game, but at a cheaper rate. The experience with Loot Bar was pleasant where the shards arrive in your account almost instantly after the transaction. It is in line with experiences with a lot of other users as well. And with characters like Saber coming along, this is the best time to give Loot Bar a try and hopefully it'll help you get her. There are even E6 bundles for any diehard fans out there as well. Very helpful. It's very easy to set up. All you need is to click on my link in the description, sign up to Loot Bar, click on whichever bundle you like, enter your ID and server, complete the payment, and you're good. There are a lot of other games outside of just Star Rail as well that they offer services for example, Wuthering Waves and the Zone Zero, and that's just to name a few. But yeah, it'll help me out a ton if you just give it a try with my link in the description now. I really would appreciate it, and it directly supports the channel. If you use my link right now, there are offers like new user discounts or coupons that you don't want to miss out, and it'll help you get that character you so hope for. And with that said, let's get back into the video. With all that said, let's start with a general overview on Hysilens' kit and how to play her. Hysilens' role is to be an all-in-one dot character. She can act as a defense reducer with Ultimate's Zone's effect, which reduces defense by 25%. The Zone doubles as another source of damage with its effect that triggers up to 8 physical dot damage for every instance of dot damage taken by enemies. You can see it happening on the screen right here. Every dot that triggers will further trigger the physical dot from Hysilens. It makes up for great damage output on a dot team for sure. This Zone lasts for 3 turns, which you can tell by the glowing white dots on Hysilens' character icon down below. Do note though, this means you will need to provide 8 different types of dots on enemies to fully trigger this effect, which is what you want to strive for. Speaking of supported capabilities, Hysilens' skill provides a 3-turn damage taken increase debuff that targets all enemies, making her the dream support for dots. On top of all of that, her talent allows ally attacks to inflict a random dot on the enemy, which makes her a very strong dot inflictor as well. The final key part to Hysilens' kit will be her major traces. The first major trace increases her damage dealt by up to 90%, but only if you reach 120% effective rate, which is not hard at all. Not only that, the second major trace allows Hysilens to trigger all dots on enemy target equal to 150% of the original damage. This is similar to Kafka's ultimate where she essentially activates all dots once, and that is a huge source of damage in the dot team that we were missing before. The final major trace on Hysilens allows her to deploy a zone at the start of combat, which is the same zone as the ultimate. Not only that, every time she deploys a zone, she will recover 1 skill point for the team, making her an even better support that handles the skill point issue of dot teams nicely. To play her generally, you simply want to make sure she has a zone up at all times, which does mean you'll want to look for an energy regen rope. Using allies such as Ho-Ho that can help with energy is certainly going to be helpful as well to achieve maximum benefits and full uptime on Hysilens' zone. Use Hysilens' kit when the enemies does not have to increase damage taken debuff, use her basic when you need skill points, use her all once you have a bunch of dots on the enemies or if you're running out of Hysilens' zone, and that will be the gist of using Hysilens. It's a pretty straightforward way. Just a side note as well, using Hysilens' ult to just straight up murder enemies to clear the wave is actually a valid choice considering the huge damage she can do in a dot team. Do not worry on potentially not being able to min-max her zone's duration if you can just kill the enemy with her ult right away. Now that we've looked at her entire kit generally, it's time to look at her builds and stats. We'll just start with her relic sets first. The 4-piece Prisoner in Deep Confinement set is the best in slot for Hysilens, given you pretty much will always have its criteria of needing 3 dots at all times be activated. Getting the defense ignore in this set will be very beneficial to reach the highest damage output for a dot character like Hysilens, obviously. As for her ornament set, going for Revelry by the Sea will be your best option with its very high 24% dot damage increase effect. Although it has a high 3600 attack at its criteria, you can realistically still reach that with the help of Kafka's major trace that boosts your attack by 100% given if you have more than 75% effect hit rate, which you should have on Hysilens. That means it's easy to get her attack to be high, yeah, no worries on that. As for a stat line, after identifying all of her criteria, we now understand that we need a minimum of 120% effect hit rate on Hysilens to fully activate her trace. An energy regen rope will aid her ultimate uptime, and the rest of the stats can be normal dot related stats like element percent damage, speed, and attack. With that in mind, Hysilens' main stats on her relics should be effect hit rate percent on her body, speed on her boots, physical damage on her orb, and energy regen on her robe. You can most certainly use an attack orb instead if that is all you have in your account, but an element damage bonus orb will be better. As for substats, prioritize effect hit rate up to 120%, and then speed, and then attack. Moving up next, it's time to look at her Lightcones. The best option is most certainly her own. Why does the ocean sing? This Lightcone brings a big 40% effect hit rate for Hysilens, which aids her massively to reach the 120% minimum. To add on to that, this Lightcone provides up to 30% dot damage received increase on the enemies and a 10% speed buff for 3 turns to whichever ally that attacks the target with said debuff, which means it's a Lightcone that buffs the whole team's performance. While it sounds great, there's actually a very strong alternative Lightcone, which will be Black Swan's Reforged Remembrance. This Lightcone also provides a 40% effect hit rate increase, but instead of the team though, this Lightcone buffs the wearer with up to 20% attack and up to 28.8% defense ignore for dot damage. Using this Lightcone makes Hysilens do more damage on her own obviously, which she does really do quite a solid amount of damage, so you won't be missing out too much value. The one issue is though, you would still prefer to use Black Swan's Lightcone on Black Swan herself with Hysilens in the same team. But hey, if you have an extra somehow, feel free to just slap that on Hysilens and you're good to go. Jiaochu's Those Many Springs is in a similar position where it provides very high effect hit rate, but you would still rather have it on Jiaochu for perhaps another team. The next alternatives would be Eyes of the Prey that also brings 40% effect hit rate, Good Night Sleep Well that brings high dot damage increase for only Hysilens, Solitary Healing that is great against multiple enemies in say Pure Fiction, and Resolution Shines like Pearls of Sweat that can certainly still work but may suffer in debuff uptime since the defense reduction is only for 1 turn. Holiday Thermae Escapity at S5 can be definitely used since it is an event Lightcone who can get to S5 very easily. It also provides great damage amplification and vulnerability on enemies, although it does not provide effect hit rate. With the build out the way, it's time to get the team ready for the gorgeous Whale Commander. To start with her core team, which is simply Hysilens and Kafka. You see, Dot has an inherent issue of consistency in a game like Honkai Star Rail. For instance, when you do clear the first wave for MOC, your second wave will start with way less dots and debuffs, and you have to rack them up again before seeing high damage with a dot team. This does make Hysilens and Kafka a good solution where a fast Kafka can plant huge number of dots by performing a flow of attacks, skills, and ults in combination with Hysilens' talent. At the same time, both of them continually activate these dots through their kit to achieve fast burst damage as soon as can be, so you can get the most damage output in the least actions, which is basically the whole game plan for Honkai Star Rail. You want to clear things quick. If Hysilens were to be used without Kafka, or if Kafka is used without Hysilens, the issue would return to be observable where you have a huge damage drop off, especially when the wave changes or if a new mob spawn with minimal dots on them. Plus, dots on their own are not numerically high enough to just outperform the dominant direct damage like Finan or Castris. So Hysilens' entire supportive kit on top of her offensive kit for dot damage output is very much needed for dot teams to match the standard of version 3 teams. Now that you have the core team ready of Hysilens and Kafka, the third slot can either be another dot character or a general support. To start with the dot character options, Black Swan is the top candidate and is in my opinion the best option out of any other characters. Obviously they all synergize with each other with dot infliction, not to mention Black Swan provides defense reduction, and on top of that she brings in massive arcana dot damage, which is further amplified by the rest of the dot team, triggering them consistently. Alternatively, you can consider weaker dot options like Grey Knifen or Sampo, though they definitely pale in comparison to Black Swan. I did make a couple of videos showcasing all of them if you want to check them out. If you do not own these specific dot options, not to worry, going for general buffers is still a solid option. Characters like Robin, Tribby, Runmate, Cypher, Cypher and Jiaoqiu can all be considered, each with their own pros and cons, but they do not beat Black Swan in terms of team synergy. If you're all out of those options, you can actually still consider Hysilens with Acheron, paired with constant attackers like Hyacinth and Tribi, and rely on the constant dot infliction that do count as Acheron's ult charge in order to gain her ult quickly. Although I certainly do not recommend pulling Hysilens only for this team, given it's not what she's designed to do, but the team's performance is definitely not bad though, as I showed in the previous video. The final slot in your team is obviously going to be a healer, with the best being Huohuo for a team-wide energy regeneration. Alternatively though, consider Hyacinth for overall survival and constant attacks. You'll be able to inflict a lot of dots with the amount of attacks low ego does. If that is not an option for you, look at Gallagher as a free option that can generate solid energy for the team with quid pro quo. If you're not looking to include a healer at all in this team though, using Robin in the slot will be a popular zero cycle setup where you're just trying to beat everything before they attack you, which is not exactly the most consistent team, but it is out there. And now that you got your team ready, let's take a look at the pull priorities with Hysilens, especially for Eidolons. In order to play Hysilens well, you should prioritize pulling her best ally Kafka first. That's right, it's not even her Lightcone or Eidolons, it's straight up just the Dark Queen Kafka. And then prioritize her E1, considering she has quite a lot of alternative Lightcones. But certainly consider a Lightcone after the E1. Hysilens' E1 boosts the dot damage output of the team by 16%, and on top of that, her talent now additionally inflicts one instance of dot that is identical and can coexist with the original dot effect. Meaning to say, she can reach 8 different dot stacks on her own in order to maximize the extra physical dot damage proc in Hysilens' zone. Given you're inflicting straight up more dots now with her E1, her damage output when she triggers these dots along with Kafka will all see significant increase, making it one of the best value Eidolons to pick up. Her E2 allows all other allies in her team to obtain the 90% damage increase from her major traits if her zone is active. The value of this Eidolon depends on your team, where if you have more allies that can deal damage, much like Kafka and Black Swan, they'll benefit from this Eidolon largely. It does not help Hysilens herself at all since it's a supportive Eidolon for your team, but the damage increase is huge for literally any other damage dealer. I do recommend picking it up if you're already at E1S1 and you still have surplus. Her E4 is quite worth it as well, with the 20% all-time res reduction on all enemies while the zone is active. Since the zone is always active, you basically just get this pure value up forever. This makes her better not just in dot teams, but everywhere, considering the general benefits from this Eidolon. While it is worth having, it is quite expensive to achieve though, which is the only thing. The final E6 is quite interesting, where when the zone is active, the maximum trigger count of Hysilens' physical dot effect is increased to 12, and the multiplier of the damage dealt is increased by 20%. This will accumulate to be very high damage increase if you can consistently trigger the full 12 physical dot effect. The way to do this well is to have a full dot team obviously, but even then you may find a need to weakness break an enemy to reach to 12 individual dot effects that can trigger Hysilens' proc 12 total times fully. Or you can look forward to a potential dot based healer in the future that can also put on that final dot you need. Overall, it's a strong Eidolon that further increases damage output, but it is not an absolute must and it could actually get even better only in the future. And to give you a quick conclusion on a character like Hysilens, I certainly do recommend picking up Hysilens if a dot team is at all in your bucket list to be something that you want to build. The big factor with Hysilens is that you have to use her with Kafka if you want to use her well, but for people who truly love Hysilens and want to get her without using Kafka somehow, you can technically still just pull her for the sake of using her with Acheron, which I am at least glad that it is a possibility to consider. With the aid of Hysilens, the dot team is certainly now at the level of version 3, but I certainly do not think it is at the level of the best teams that we see in the whole of the game. So for meta chasers, do you really need Hysilens as a character? At least not necessarily now, but you never know what might happen in the future if dot gets helped again. But rejoice though, with a character as important as a core for dot teams like Hysilens can be, they'll most certainly get a rerun going if in the future they release some really good dot supports. And in the end, do remember, pull for whoever you love, and that is the best advice. And that'll be all for my comprehensive Hysilens guide. I hope I helped you out. Have fun getting your dot team ready, and gosh dang, I cannot wait to finally bring Kafka for a spin everywhere. And yeah, I'll be doing that now, so take care.